Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Noctua NF-F12 fan. Now this, to break it down, it's basically Noctua focused, Noctua focused, the other F is for flow, and then it's 12 because it's 120 millimeters, and then PWM, self-explanatory. So yeah, Noctua focus flow fan. Now, got to admit, I generally, when somebody says to me, do I want to do a fan review, I say no. So when Noctua asked me if I wanted to do a fan review, I said no. They said to me, can we send you some anyway? You use them and you tell us what you think of them. So I was like, okay then, because I knew I was going to be starting to use the H100 anyway. And I chucked them on the H100, and I was just going to give them basically just a, use them for a bit and then let them know what I thought. They were going to be happy with that. But basically, because I have used them and I have been rather shocked about them, I've decided to do these two reviews, because this is one of two reviews that I'm doing. Doing the H80 in this review, and then we're going to do the H100 in another view, which I will link into the video. And basically we're going to be testing the performance on the two units. And people may say, why have you used Corsair stuff? Because they're quite readily available. The H80 is 80 quid. And it also gives us a very good indication the way these fans will work on proper, fully fledged water cooling radiators. So that means I can kind of, especially when it comes to YouTube, when it's all about the way people search and the words that they use and stuff like that, it just means that I can cover a lot of bases with a couple of videos. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open the box, and that's a word I hate, but we're going to have a look inside, because it's not just the fan in the box. I'll also explain to you about some of the technology of the fan, and then we're going to break onto some testing. And for this rig today, we're going to be using the Rampage 4 Extreme. I'll explain to you in a minute anyway, and the 3960X. But I'm going to change the move the camera basically, and I'm going to bring you in for a closer look. Right then peeps, so let's have a look at the box just quickly. There's a big fold out thing at the back, and it gives you loads of information about what's going on with the fan, but I'm going to kind of go over all of these details with you in a bit anyway. But I just want to show you, because these are quite expensive. These are $18.99 each, but you get quite a fair bit with them really. Obviously you get the fan, which, just to give you a up close look, basically these things have got so much going on with them, it's unreal. So I have to make sure that you can actually see what I'm doing. If you can see the edge there, bring you in for a closer, there we go. Now they call that the stepped inlet design, and that basically, shaking the tripod, basically that actually helps smooth off the air as it goes into the fan, and by keeping the air smooth actually stops wind noise, believe it or not. It's crazy. The blades itself, they say it's the heptaperf impeller, and that's just to balance the difference between performance and wind noise. Right, I am reading this from a, I've got a little bit of paper to the side of the thing with all the notes, because there's so much that they've just crammed into this. You've got the anti-vibration pads at the side, which are on both sides, so it doesn't matter which way round you mount it. You've got, inside, you've got a metal bearing shell, and I mean inside, there's a metal bearing shell. You've also got this metal bearing shell at the back, the SS02 bearing, which is actually inside the main unit. Obviously you've got the focus flow frame, and the notches in the side which help direct all the air down. Now basically people wonder what focus flow means, but if we put that out to the side, right, basically a normal fan, when it throws the air out, will throw the air out like that. I'm just trying to do it so you can see. And the air will go out everywhere, and it will just spin out. Imagine if you spin a wheel with water on it, it's kind of the same kind of thing. So the air goes out like that. But with a focus flow fan like this, it actually keeps the air and directs it, and it throws it all straight forward. So you end up with a less noise. you also end up, where it's focused, it means more air's passing over the right bits. And you may think to yourself, well, if it's focused, why is it making less noise? Because if the air's going out the side, then basically when it goes to go out the side and it can't get there, it will hit the heat sink or the radiator or whatever, and it'll end up hitting the side and then having to come back in again. And that's where the noise comes. By forcing it all straight forward, it just goes where you want it to. It means that you have the flow hitting the points that you actually want to cool. Now there's a lot more stuff that I could go into. I mean, there's varied angled, these blades here, they're not actually all the same pitch. They've actually got varied pitches on them as well, and that's all again to be able to tune the noise and stuff like that. There's actually a lot of technology gone into this fan. Now, braided, it's all braided. It's that kind of waxy kind of cotton finish. If you wanted to be anal about it, you could say that the ends on the heat shrink and everything are quite long. But at the end of the day, it's a black braid. You can't see the wires underneath. It looks tidy. It's not like you can see the wires. Like I said before, you can't see the wires underneath. And it does do the job. And I've got to admit, it's never been a fan braid or anything that in the past I thought to myself I didn't like. And I've used a lot of these over my time. Not these specifically, but Noctua sort of stuff anyway. You also get in the box a selection of the rubber grommets, which I have to admit I've used them a few times, but I don't really bother. I actually don't think that you need to. There's a splitter for PWM, and it goes from 1 PWM to 2. Should you be mad enough to want to be powering these off of like a motherboard fan header or something like that. There's also in here a low noise adapter there. That will basically, if you put that in between your Molex and your fan, or with a motherboard and the fan, it will spin. It will make the fan spin slower. I wouldn't actually advise using these at all if you're going to be plugging them into your motherboard. And then there's also just a plain, good old-fashioned extension cable. Now, how many times have you bought a fan, paid a tenner for it, it's turned up, and all you get is a couple of screws and the fan itself? Whereas with the Noctua, yeah, you do pay a premium, but you do get all the other bits in the box as well, and you also get a fan, as you're going to see, that works absolutely brilliantly. Because that's the reason why I'm doing this review, because I really like them. Now you can see I'm putting this back in, but what I'm going to do now is we're going to move on and have a look at the rig in the system. Oh, there was actually a guide inside the box as well, I didn't see. But we're going to move on now. We're going to take a look at the system before we test. And yeah, and then we'll move on and see how we get on with the NF-F12s in testing. Right then peeps, just a little look at the test system that we're using today. Obviously we've got the H80 in. As it comes with 2 sets of fans, I'm going to be running it only with the 2 sets of fans for push-pull. To make things fair between the Corsair and the Noctua, I'm running both sets of fans from 12 volts, because the problem is I can obviously connect them to the pump, but the pump, when you turn it down, it doesn't keep a constant fan speed, and it will dial the fan speed back depending on the fluid temperature, the core temperature or whatever, the fluid temperature. So like I said, just to make it fair, we're going to run both sets of fans on 12 volts. That does mean that the fans that come with the H80 will be running at 2,500 RPM, because that's their maximum spin speed. And the NF-F12s only go up to 1,500 RPM spin speed. So the Noctuas are kind of at a loss on this. It's just to kind of show the difference between the two. Now this isn't the best way. In a moment I'm going to clip my microphone onto a ram stick just so that you can hear the noise from the fans, because it is quite loud, but like I said, we are running it at max. Test system today, we've got obviously the H80. Underneath the whole rig where the blue cables are, there's a Corsair AX1200 watt. We've got GTX 8 RAM, again from Corsair. Then we've got an Asus Rampage 4 Extreme, Gigabyte 6970, which is a review you'll see from me a little bit later on, and obviously it's all on my test bench. And in a moment we will, after we've done this batch of tests, we'll move the two Noctua NF-F12s onto the H80 and run it all again. But what I'm going to do is, to start off with, we're going to demonstrate the fan noise. So I'll show you the Corsair fans, we'll cut into the Noctua fans, and then we'll come back to the Corsair tests. So a little bit complicated, but hopefully you'll be able to keep up. Anyway, I'll give you a quick blast of the noise that these fans make at 12 volts. Right then peeps, quick look at the Noctua, more for a comparison test with the fans. So I'm just going to shut up quickly because you've just been listening to the Corsairs, and put you straight in for a listen to the fans on these. Now I'm obviously not sure what you're going to be able to hear till I listen to the actual video back itself to see what the microphone has and hasn't picked up. But I can just say that there's an ever so slight, for my ears, faint hum. There's really no wind noise or anything like that I can hear. It's significantly quieter than the Corsairs. I will say that with the fans set up this way, compared to two fans on the H100, it does sound a little bit louder. It's not the pump or anything like that, because before I had started recording, I played around with the pump and stuff. It is just a very slight noise with the fans going over the radiator blades. I'll just see if you can pick it up now while the fan stopped. I'm just going to release the fan now. It's very, very slight. I really don't know whether that, either whether the microphone will pick it up, whether it'll amplify it. But one thing I can say is, like I said, it's obviously in an open case, and it's really not. I don't know how to explain it really. I can hear the graphics card more, and the graphics card is immensely quiet. Once that was in a case, you really wouldn't be able to hear it very much at all, to be perfectly honest with you. You'd probably find that your mechanical hard drive is louder. But what I'm going to do now is crack on with some tests. We obviously need to get the... I know I'm swapping and changing between the videos, but we're going to go back to Corsair fans first, test the Corsair fans, see what the results are like, and then take a look at the Noctua fans afterwards to see if we've had a temperature increase, temperature reduction. We obviously already know that it's much quieter with the Noctuas, but we'll see whether there's been much of a performance trade-off. So let's crack on with the testing. Right then peeps, back for the first of our test results. This is the Corsair fans. As you can see at the bottom, the temperature that you need to take note of is the 20.8. That is our current inside, in the room, ambient temperature. Now if we move up, wait for the camera to focus, you can see that we're running 1.4 volts. Well, it's 1.4 volts in the BIOS. Then with the load line calibration, the volts may flicker a little. But we're running 4.6 gigahertz. This is the only test that we're going to be doing today. Well, the only core speed that we're going to be doing today. If I zoom out a bit, you can see that we've been running prime for, well, it's just over 30 minutes now, but I took my results at the 30 minutes mark. And if we zoom back in again, I really do need a tripod, but there we go, we've got it. Right, one thing I will say is this temperature here we're going to ignore, because that's a package temperature. We're only taking any notice of the core temperatures. So for the core temperatures, I got, when I took my results, 78, 73, 68, 71, 75 and 78. If you add those all together and divide by 6, that gives us an average temperature of 73.8 degrees. Then, if you take away the 20.8 degrees ambient temperature, that leaves us with 53 degrees dead, and that's the temperature that we're going to call it, that's our delta temperature. So that's the delta temperature that we've got for this result. Now what we need to do is change the fans, and we'll see how the Noctuas fare. Will the temperatures be more? How much quieter will it be? We don't know. That's what we're here to find out. So I'm going to stop the video now, get the fans changed over. It's going to take a little while for me because obviously I've got to do the testing as well, but it's going to be very quick for you. So give me a sec and I will be back. Right then guys, on to the Noctua results. As you may be able to tell, because if you listen in the background, there's a lot less noise. If not, you could say no noise. But anyway, ambient temperature there you can see is 20.4. About 5 minutes ago when I took my results, it was 20.3 degrees. If we move up, we can see, there we go, that we've still got it at 1.4 volts and 4.6 gigahertz. Zoom out a bit, you can see that prime's been running for over half an hour now, and there we go. Right, if I zoom back in, right, we can see the temperatures there. Now when I took my results, they were 79, 74, 70, 73, 77, 81. Add those all together, divide them by 6, and you get 75.6 degrees for an average temperature across the 6 cores. Now, 20.3 degrees ambient, take that away from 75.6, and that gives you 55.3 degrees, which is our delta temperature. Now, we can now compare the two delta temperatures, because obviously it was 55.3 for Noctua and 53 for the Corsair. So we've gained an extra 2.3 degrees, but we've lost probably about 23 decibels. I know it's not that much, but anyway. But what we're going to do now, guys and girlies, is we're going to move on to the conclusion, get things wrapped up, and see what we think about the H80 with the NF-F12 Noctua fans. Right then, guys, moving on to the conclusion for the Noctua NF-F12s on the H80. So, and I will say, right at the very beginning of this, we have also tested this on a H100, which we've done in a separate video. So, what we're going to talk about is obviously the temperatures and all that kind of stuff, but I need to kind of talk about like the award and stuff, and I like to do that quite early on. Now, for the NF-F12s, I'm going to give them a performance award. I'm going to explain why I've gone with a performance award rather than a gold award. Now, throughout the tests, I was kind of, the way that we'd set the review up, where we were going to be running the Corsair fans at 2,500 RPM against the Noctua fans at 1,500 RPM, instantly puts the Noctuas at a disadvantage. And I was under no illusions of that, because in my head I was, going to be leaning this towards the fact it was silent. What I wasn't prepared for was quite how narrow the gap was going to be. If I had run the Corsair fans at 1,500 RPM, same as the Noctua fans, then the results would have been massively different. Sadly, I was hoping that I was just going to be able to dial it down on the like the main unit. But when you plug the fan kind of the RPM header into your motherboard, it just relates the pump speed, and obviously the fan speed goes up and down depending on the coolant temperature. So there was no way I could get a consistent result. So I thought, right, I'm just going to go with the fans and how I know they're going to run, static all the time, and I'll be able to, set it up properly and draw some conclusions from that. Like I said, wasn't kind of expecting the Corsairs to be so close to the I wasn't expecting the Noctuas to be so close to the Corsair fans. They were behind, but let's kind of put things into perspective. The Corsair fans are very loud. Something I've said about the H100, it's something I said about the H80. It's got the ability to be able to be quiet, but obviously then temps are warmer. But to have it on, for maximum performance with the pump turned right up and the fans turned right up, it does get noisy. But the good thing with the NF-F12s, and this would be the way I would advise you all to run your rig as well if you do this, the Noctuas come with fan speed reducers in the box, as you saw at the beginning. So the way I would run it is I would fit your fans and everything to in the rig and everything. I'd then run a separate line off of a Molex on your power supply, so down the back of your case, because obviously you want to be keeping things tidy, and run the Noctua fans straight from a Molex. If they're a little bit too noisy for you, which you would have to have pretty good hearing to be able to think that they were too noisy, use a fan speed reducer on them. Leave the fans at a static speed. Get to a point that you're happy with your temperatures, that you're happy with the noise, leave them static. Then go to the dial on the Corsair, make sure the pump's on maximum. That's it. Forget about it. You don't need to keep opening your case and pressing that button and all that. Set it up, forget about it. It'll be cool, it'll be quiet. I've got to admit, to be perfectly honest with it, if it was me with these fans, even though I am a bit of a silence freak, I would probably run them at 12 volts. I have done with previous Noctua stuff that I've run. I was really properly going for that audible side, you know, proper, you know, insanely quiet. I wasn't too worried about temps. Obviously, then you can still use the fan speed control. But honestly, if you get to that point, then there's so many other things in your case that your ears are then going to start tuning in on. It would be unreal. But the reason why I gave it Performance Award is the Noctua fans do sting a bit. At Special Tech, they're $18.99 each. You're looking at 19 quid. So for a pair on this rig, you're looking at £38 just in fans. I mean, that's like adding another 50% onto the value of the H80 that's £80 to start off with. Now, a lot of you will kind of be saying, well, then why have you bothered reviewing them? I had so many requests about how the H80 and the H100 would perform with the NF-F12s that it kind of got to a point that even I was starting to wonder. And when I first moved over to my H100 on my bench rig, I put NF-F12s on it then, and I've been running them for quite a while throughout quite a lot of reviews for me to be able to draw my own kind of opinions. I've used them when they're warm, I've used them when they're, do you know what I mean, when the room's freezing, I've used them when the room's been baking hot, continued kind of benchmarking all day, stupid kind of literally ragging the back end out of the CPU. I really have put them through their paces before I even decided to kind of do a full-on video review, because to me, and I don't want to sound big-headed, but I don't really want to start reviewing fans. And I kind of hope that will show you how good these are. They are awesome. Now, one thing I will say is, like I said, they do sting, and a lot of people are not going to like the colour. But I'll explain to you why Noctua leave the fans this colour. And that's, if you see a picture of one of these fans anywhere in the world, you are never going to get it mixed up with another brand. Whereas if you had another, you know, fan brand, you'd need to look at the label, have a really close look. Unless they've got some kind of distinctive colour, you're not going to know what they are. So that's kind of to kind of let you know. Now, I wouldn't necessarily paint these, but one thing I will say is with the Noctua colouring, I think it really does suit a white case and other white parts in your system. Probably one of the reasons why I don't mind the colour so much is because I am still quite a fan of white cases and white bits. So yes, my lovelies, that would be my advice for you all. If you like white, cool. But if you've got a H80 or a H100, as you'll see with the other video, these are probably some of the best fans available on the market. I would go as far as to say these are the best fans Noctua have ever produced for a radiator, a water cooling radiator, anything like that. Now, I've not tested them on a heatsink or anything yet, because the heatsink designs are very different to the way radiators work and are put together. But as far as rads are concerned, whether it's an enclosed water cooling loop like this, there are other enclosed water cooling loops on the market, you don't necessarily have to buy one of the Corsair ones, or if you're using a proper water cooling kit and you're looking for silence or quiet, real proper quiet running, but still have awesome temperatures, these really should be, you know, at the top of your possibility list. And if you can afford them, I don't think you would be disappointed. But I'm going to leave this video here now. Like I said, Noctua NF-F12s, a solid performance award, and the only reason why it's performance and not gold is because of the price, because getting close to £20 a fan is expensive. But to be perfectly honest with you, as you've seen with the box opening and everything like that, with everything you get in the box and the performance you get out the fan, you certainly do get what you pay for. So yes guys, that's it. I'm going to love you and leave you here. And this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out.